friends, I'm back from my hibernation. I was too busy visiting family and friends in the past month, so I rarely had the mood or the time to play games at all. But hey, I'm back now and I'm ready to ramble about some characters again. And today's topic is about the majestic magic man, Gale of Waterdeep. Aside from my personal break and everything, another reason it took so long to make this video is because Gale's personal quest is very integrated to the main story, so I had to finish the game to complete his quest too, so yeah. Now I have to be careful because the person who proofreads my scripts, who also happens to be my best friend, is extremely smitten by the man. And her eyes will be on me and my script. Oh boy. I have to say, I didn't like Gale that much in the early access. I was one of those people who expected him to go full evil because he was somehow manipulative and weird in the early access. I mean, okay, there's Astarion, but you get what I mean. And if you romanced him in the early access, the guy talked about his ex the next day when you do the deed, so it's not good. It's not good. But in the full release, when I saw the idiot stuck inside the portal, I was like, okay, I love this character now. That's all it took, really. Anyway, before I begin with anything, use Eldritch Blast on my subscribe button, please. It motivates me to do more of these and prevents me from procrastinating more, so yeah, please. And hey, you can also reach me via Discord, Twitter, Instagram. All are listed in the description, so let's talk about Gale. But before we do, let me shortly explain who Mystra is, because she's very important to this character. So Mystra is the goddess of magic, or rather, she is magic. Her predecessor Mistral sacrificed herself during Karsus' folly, where Netheril fell and magic of all kind gets destroyed. Mistral sacrificed herself to save the Weave and was reborn as Mystra. Mystra, now taking over the Weave, sets new rules in the usage of magic, which is also called Mistra's Ban, which prevents mortals to get better at magic after a certain level. Before this, all sorts of magic was allowed, which is the reason why Netheril fell in the first place. So anyway, Mystra takes over after Mistral, and Mystra is a lawful neutral deity. When she takes over, she doesn't really bother with the good versus evil things, because upholding the law of the usage of magic becomes more important after what happened with Karsus. But later, Mystra actually dies again. Yeah, you heard me. She dies again during the time of troubles when Ao forced all of the gods to walk in the material realm in their avatar form. A lot of chaos happens. Gods starts killing other gods. Magic becomes unstable, you know, every possible chaotic situation when gods aren't actually ruling over the stuff they were supposed to. Ao tasks Helm to protect the Celestial Stairway, preventing other gods from entering their realms, and Mystra tries to enter her realm and gets slain by Helm. But before she enters, she actually divides her powers among her chosen, which are Azoth, Midnight, and our good old friend Elminster. I won't delve into any more lore details here, but Mystra gives Midnight a locket that contains her essence and powers, and through that locket, Midnight ascends to godhood as the new Mystra. So yeah, the Mystra we see in Baldur's Gate 3 is actually Midnight. Now that Midnight takes over, upholding the law in magic is naturally back again. Until Cyric assassinates her and causes the spell plague. Yeah, she is slain. Again. She dies, but she survives somehow and is trapped inside a bear? I know. This lore is just... it just doesn't make sense anymore. Anyway, Elminster brings her back somehow, but at this point the view itself is quite weakened. So Mystra has to fix the weave, and during that time Mystra takes on a few chosen later on. Gale being one of them. And boy, it just gets juicy later on. And this is the part when we start talking about Gale, so get ready. Now, before we begin with anything, I'd like to defend and clear some things about Gale, okay? So, set the scene. Well, Your Honor, let's do this!
Gale just doesn't take the hint. I'm being nice to him and he instantly falls in love with me.
Objection! Not true. Your Honor, Gale of Waterdeep may act like he's a hopeless simp who instantly falls in love with you, but the thing is, this was caused by a bug and the vagueness of the writing, which has been long since fixed. It's not the character's fault, it was just a mistake by the creators. Objection!
Gale constantly talks about his ex and I don't like it.
Objection! Your Honor, unless you ask about it, he rarely talks about her. And when he finally falls in love with you, his disdain against Mystra only rises. He clearly shows his love towards you more than Mystra, and he tells you as such. Objection!
He's still inviting you to hang out with him in the woods or ask you for a date in Act 3 when you meet Tara.
Objection! Easy. Just because he asks you to join him in the woods, he isn't going to have a romantic evening with you. Reminder that Mystra asked him to blow himself up when he meets the Absolute. He is scared and he doesn't want to die, but he also feels like he has no choice. He just asks to watch the stars with you as friends. He needs your company as a friend. And, Your Honor, let's please normalize having dinners with your friends. All he is doing is inviting you for a dinner in Waterdeep. Objection!
Gale is just like Anders from Dragon Age 3.
Objection! As much as I compare Dragon Age and Baldur's Gate, remember, they are their individual games. Gale is nothing like Anders. Their whole backgrounds are completely different, so don't simply hate a character because it reminds you of another character. Get to know them first. Now that I have those out of my chest, let's focus on Mr. Decarius. So, Gale of Waterdeep is a wizard, but not just any wizard. The guy is a magic prodigy, which is definitely not what you see when you meet him, because he's stuck inside a portal. Yeah, not the best introduction to a mighty wizard, that's for sure. Anyway, like everyone else in the group, he also hides stuff from you, which is, like, at this point, is expected in Baldur's Gate 3. When you first meet him, he might even come across self-absorbed a bit, and he definitely isn't humble about anything.
Let's see. I hail from Waterdeep, city of splendors. I am a wizard of considerable acclaim and scholar of exceptional accomplishment. I have a cat, a library, and a weakness for a good glass of wine. And if the mood takes me, I'm known to try my hand at poetry. There. Certainly. That I have a great respect for privacy, for instance, especially my own.
As you get to know him, or as he gets to observe you, if you did mostly good deeds, he'll instantly open up to you. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, he kind of has to open up to you because of his condition, but usually doing good is the way for him to come and tell you that he has to consume artifacts to survive. So yeah, that's what you do. I never came across this dialogue in the full release, but in the early access there was a dialogue like where you could tell Gale, so Astarion needs to drink blood and you have to eat magic, to which Gale replied something along the lines of, some appetites are unique than others. And Astarion says, you should be glad you're traveling with men of taste. I loved it. Larian, please bring it back. Anyway, occasionally, on certain points, as you can guess, Gale has sudden cravings, and you have to part with whatever magic item you have on your inventory, sadly. To be honest, I just simply gave him some jewelry, so yeah. And then during one of those nights in camp, you see him conjure a woman in his palm. If your character is a cleric, bard, wizard, etc., they'll immediately know that it's Mystra. Then you channel the weave together, which is one of my favorite parts in the whole game. Because I have a freaking soft spot for romantic moments in enchanted forests or magical surroundings, okay? I just love it. It's beautiful and I'm craving this, okay? Don't judge me. So yeah, this is why I love this moment. Gale channels the weave and you spent a wholesome, intimate moment in it. So after he absorbs the weave the third time from a magic item, something suddenly feels wrong. And then he tells you the true reason why he needs to do this unholy absorption ritual. He reveals to you that he once piqued the interest of goddess Mystra because of his magical powers at such a young age. Mystra took him under her wings. First, she became his teacher, then his muse, then his lover. Yeah, I know how it sounds. I thought the same thing.
Why don't you have a seat?
So when the weave was completely destroyed during Karsa's folly, Mistral had to sacrifice herself and be reborn as Mystra, as I mentioned earlier. But some of her old magic still lingered somewhere, probably lost after Netheril fell. Gale finds a Netherese stone from that era and realizes it contains magic that may have belonged to Mystra once. And returning that magic back to Mystra was his way of declaring his faith and love, but that plan completely backfired when the orb became one with Gale and completely consumed his powers, basically rendering him to a level 1 wizard. And if he doesn't sate that orb that constantly requires devouring magic, he will erupt, destroying anything and everything on its way. So yeah, we've been traveling with a time bomb. But this is where his story truly starts. Because when you finally make your way to the mountain pass, you'll meet the legendary Elminster Omar, who wants to eat your cheese? Yeah. Anyway, Elminster comes in with the most chaotic news. Since the absolute threat begins to threaten everything, Mystra has found the best way to get rid of it. Yeah, Gale's orb. So basically, Mystra sends Elminster to tell Gale to blow himself up. Yeah. So this meme's actually legit. Mystra also bestows magic to Elminster to use it on Gale to stabilize his orb, allowing it to feed on the true weave. Now, this is the moment I want to give my personal opinions, because this is the moment that actually changes everything for Gale. Because on one hand, he honestly doesn't want to die, but on the other hand, this is his way to redemption in the eyes of Mystra. Now, here's the core plot of the character. The power imbalance in their relationship renders Gale yearning for more power to prove himself to Mystra, but also making him insecure in the process. Well, if you traveled with him at all, this is pretty much obvious from the start. But Gale as a character is deeper than his ex toyed with him, now he suffers for it type of character. Let me explain. Gale was the gifted kid in his past. Now, if you guys ever watched my videos in the past, you might know that I'm a teacher. And in my experience, when there are gifted children in the classroom, or mainly just a child being really good at something that they do, sometimes parents or people around them get blinded by their success. Meaning people can see past their success. The validation they get because of their success starts defining their whole life, basically. Now, of course, if a parent or an authority figure can actually make it clear to the child that they love them, despite their talents, it usually results in a more healthy outcome, naturally. However, if people only care about a child's good grades and nothing else, you may end up with a child who is very insecure, who will always doubt their value and lovability. Heck, you may even know children like these, or perhaps you may have been this child. Gale is also exactly this child. People only care about his magical talents. Heck, even the gods only care about his abilities. He thinks that the only thing people will always appreciate about him is his magic. He has this constant thought that if I don't do this, people won't like me, hence why he's a bit reserved, talking about his problems compared to the other situations where he has to give his opinions about certain matters that requires his knowledge or magic. But also, ironically, his abilities are also the reason he's dying.
You must know. Our relationship is the brightest spot in our otherwise bleak endeavor. To know you love me for the man I am and not the magic I command. None have loved me so purely before. You are everything to me. And yet our relationship is only a nascent fraction of what it will become. You give me hope. I've not had that in some time.
People usually tell me Gale falls in love with Tao too fast, which I can't really comment on because honestly we don't know how much time passes between Act 1 and 2. It could be the vagueness of the time passing rather than the character himself, but we can also argue that Tao is the first person to ever make him feel valuable in spite of his magical abilities. And the guy has been isolated for too long, so I don't know, maybe he's quick to fall in love with people. But as I said, I can't really comment on it, but I'm going for the former, since this isn't really the first time Gale has been misunderstood by the writing. Anyway, what I'm getting at is, whether as friends or lovers, Tao is the only one who likes him just because he's himself, and not because of his magical abilities. Despite him constantly trying to impress you with magic, if Tao keeps that stance, meaning valuing him more than his magical abilities, this plays a huge role in the later acts. When you eventually reach Moonrise Towers and talk to Gale, he's honestly scared of dying, but also feels like he has no choice. You spend some beautiful time under the stars and Gale is again trying to impress you with magic, as you can guess. Gale is not only scared of dying, but also disappointed that this is what fate wants from him, because he sees there's so much to live and yet also wants to satisfy his goddess. Now, a lot of you might wonder why he still tries to satisfy Mystra despite their breakup. My theory is he was banished by Mystra, and being declared faithless by your patron deity means you can't really enter their realm and are doomed to roam the fugue plane, basically. So he kind of has to worship her. Plus, as we've established, magic is all Mystra. He's bound to her, whether he wants it or not. And we could also argue power imbalance still plays a role here. Gale has no option but to comply. Anyway, as you eventually find the Elder Brain, and Gale immediately recognizes the crown of Karsus and decides to end everything there. Mind you, it is possible to get that ending in Act 2, but instead you can reassure him that you'll find another way. And I actually like that scene. Hold up.
An Elder Brain. One of the cruelest and most powerful creatures in existence. Enslaved by mere mortals.
Look at that crown. It radiates with power unlike anything I've ever seen. To have it. To hold. Oh, if only I could. But I can't. This is it. I must do as Mystra commands. What choice do I have? More than just a goddess counts with my courage. Whole worlds hang in the balance. I love you too. Much more than myself. More. Even than Mystra. Very well. Whether I condemn this world or not, I choose you.
After you learn the origins from the Emperor, the crown containing Netherese magic, Gale immediately suggests that you should go to the Sorcerer's Sundries and get the Annals of Karsus in Baldur's Gate. And when you do, Elminster greets you again, telling Gale that Mystra wants to talk to him. This dialogue can go either way, depending how you spoke to Gale previously. And this is the part which kind of makes me mad. So, the Weave is like a network of magic. And when Gale reads the Annals of Karsus, Mystra immediately knows what's going on and decides to talk to him. Mystra asks him, why haven't you done what you've been told? And no matter what Gale says at this point, right after Mystra tells him the Netherese magic he's been trying to return to her was a Karsite weave that Karsus created. And it devoured Gale's magic and wants more power, just like Karsus himself. And when Gale tells her, I just wanted to prove myself worthy, Mystra says he was already worthy. Now, this is the part that makes me mad. Because Mystra could have, told him that before he screwed everything up. None of this would have happened if Mystra told him that he was worthy. But then again, she's a goddess, and, gods in D&D aren't so different from Olympian gods, if I'm being honest. If you ever looked into Greek mythology, these kinds of gods toying with mortals are pretty much common, so yeah. What can I say? This explains a lot about Mystra, to be frank. She doesn't care about anything as long as it doesn't have any effect on the weave. Which is understandable, the weave is her, but I feel like all of this could have been preventable if Mystra just told him he was enough. Anyway, right after that scene, there's a beautiful magical romantic scene again. It's like the scene from Tangled cranked up. I love it. And Gale tells you that if he can have the crown, he'd have so much power and basically get rid of the holds of gods. Well, unlike Mystra, you can tell him that at that point that he's enough as he is and doesn't need the power. And Gale is very impressed by that, actually. Despite what you've been through, the guy still can't accept the fact that he has value as a person, not just a wizard.
But what if we didn't need them? What if we wielded their power instead and helped ourselves in all the ways they refused to? I could make that happen. I could make this illusion a reality, with you by my side. then have me. But have the best possible version of me. The tadpoles, the orb, these threats to our existence, the gods could aid us if they wished, but instead they cower behind Io. So let us act ourselves. With the power of the crown, any foe would be rendered impotent, any obstacle would be dwarfed by our might. I used to believe Mistra's forgiveness was worth dying for. But I was wrong. You showed me just how much I have to live for. With you, I forget, my goddess. I love you. Tell me you feel the same way. Tell me you want what I want. Please. But think what I offer. The vastness of eternity to explore, the weave at our fingertips. You would really prefer me as I am?
Oh, you also meet Tara in Act 3, which was such an amazing surprise and such an honor, to be honest. Yes, I'm Tara's #1 fan. No matter who I romance, I'll always be Tara's #1 fan. Shut up! Anyway, in my game, Gale didn't promise anything to Mistra when he met her, but later agreed to take the crown to her. Later, when you eventually reach the Elder Brain, Gale asks you again whether he should detonate the orb. After all this, he still thinks about using the orb, which is kind of sad, to be honest. But at that point, nothing seems to be going well, so I suppose he thought this would be the only way. And you have to remind him that he doesn't have to do that. When everything is done and the Elder Brain dies, Gale looks at the sea thoughtfully, saying that the crown is somewhere in the Chiontar, and he's going to take it to Mistra, saving himself from the orb and becoming her chosen again.
If I salvage the stones, I can reforge it. The power of Karsus would be in my hands. But what then? What would I do with it once I have it? Sage and timely counsel as always, and I intend to heed it. A wise man learns from his mistakes and strives not to repeat them. I shall bring the crown to Mistra. She'll cure me of my affliction, and I'll finally be free. And a more deserving one this time around. If this adventure has taught me anything, is that there are things in this world far more valuable than power.
Hi, this is editing me. And it's 7:36 a.m. in the morning and I'm freaking tired, but I was just thinking while I was editing, why does Gale bother becoming Mistra's chosen again? Like, I know that being chosen of a certain god gives you a more power than, others basically, but like, dude, can't you just casually worship her? Why do you have to be her chosen again? That's the only thing that bugged me about this whole ordeal, so yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Okay. I need to go back to editing. Bye-bye. And at the end, he asks you to marry him if you actually romanced him, and it is so sweet.
I've decided to drop this whole Gale of Waterdeep business. It's a bit pompous, don't you think? You're now in the company of plain old Gale Decarius, a most brilliant wizard of intentionally limited renown. At your service. Now, I believe this is the moment where I should get to my point, so to speak. I love you. More than I've ever loved anyone, mortal or immortal. And you've proven your love for me in more ways than even the greatest mathematicians would dare to count. That being said, I wondered if you might consider accompanying me back to Waterdeep as a new member of the Dakaria's clan. I suppose I am. Tara would be delighted, not to mention my mother. But I'll be just as happy without such ceremony. So long as we're together. You will? Oh, thank goodness for that. We'll need to make the arrangements, of course. The Dakaria's clan is scattered far and wide, and you'll have invites of your own to send out, I'm sure. But that's all to come.
Six months later, he becomes a proud professor at the Blackstaff Academy, happily married or living with Tao, also devoting himself to his work and his research. And hey, Tara calls you darling at the epilogue. And as a mom of a calico cat, let me tell you, earning the darling title from a tortoiseshell Trism is definitely worth it. I have to say, I was so smitten with Gale as I progressed this romance. It felt like it was a healthy dose of some of my favorite characters. And I'm so happy. Shout out to Tim Downey who voiced him so perfectly. Also, do you guys ever realize how mirrored the characters are? I mean, I already knew that they were, but it became clearer as I wrote this. Like, you see Shadowheart and Lae'zel freeing themselves from their goddesses after years of devotion. Then you have Will and Karlach who ended up working for a devil at a young age. One was forced to do it, and the other one had to do it. Then you have Gale and Astarion who are kind of like the two ends of the same stick. Sure, their experiences in life were different. However, it all boils down to how they were treated and how that contributed to their insecurities. In Astarion's case, people only cared about how he looked or what he was, which made him feel like he had no value beyond that. That's why, at his core, he thought he wasn't worthy of being loved or cared for. And then we have Gale, who was only valued for his gifts and magical abilities, but nobody cared about the man behind those talents. So he thought that would be the only thing, the only way to get people's love, which ended up being something that almost killed him. But I honestly liked him very much. Also, this is kind of personal, but I found him closest character to my own personality. We even blurted out the same things in the game here and there, which was really interesting. If I ever do Let's Plays here, you'll see what I mean. So, I mean, depending on whether you even want to see Let's Plays in the first place, so we'll see. There are so many things I want to say about Gale, but this video has been delayed long enough, so for my own sake, I have to end it here. But hey, what are your thoughts? Tell me in the comments down below. You know, I always have a blast reading them. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna lay down and play low and deep space. And as always, thank you for your support, and I'll see you next time. Sayonara. Special thanks to my bestie Miri for voicing Von Karma, because that's her favorite character, so. And another special thanks to my other bestie who constantly proofreads what I do, so yeah, just wanted to say thank you. Okay, bye.